Hi, my name is Henry Campbell, and this is my report on the sensory evaluation of vanilla ice creams. To begin, I had 4 other group members. They were Greg Housley, Jake House, Puspita Seri, and Megan Davenport. Together, we attempted to study the differences between 5 different vanilla ice cream varieties, which were Breyers Natural Vanilla, Dreyer's Slow Churn No Sugar Added Vanilla Bean, Tillamook Vanilla Bean, Winco Vanilla Bean, and Breyers Lactose Free Vanilla. We chose a wide range so that we could get different attributes for each. For example, the lactose-free vanilla would have different sweetness than the others, and the no sugar added, slow churned would have different densities and also sweetness. We evaluated each one for vanilla aroma, color, creaminess, density, and melt rate. For our evaluations, we used a reference standard for each one. For vanilla aroma, we used a vanilla bean, which was whole and in the jar, and we would open and smell the vanilla bean, and this level of odor was given a 10 on our 15 centimeter line scale. For color, I acquired a paint swatch from Ace Hardware called Touch of Vanilla. It was a little dark for our evaluation, so this was given a 10 to 11 rating on the 15 centimeter line scale. For creaminess, we used heavy whipping cream, which was obviously very creamy, and this was given a 10. For density, we used canned whipped cream, which was very airy compared to ice cream, so this was a very low standard and was given around a 5 and less. For rate of melting, we used an ice cube, which we timed the ice cube in our mouth, how long it took for it to melt to the point where we could comfortably chew the ice cube. To set up our evaluation, each sample was put in a red Solo cup and covered. The panelists were given spoons, samples, and water to cleanse their palate. Random codes were assigned to each sample as follows: Tillamook Vanilla Bean 497, Breyers Natural Vanilla 615, Dreyer's No Added Sugar 316, Breyers Lactose Free 742, Winco Food Vanilla Bean 140. Serving orders for each of these random codes were assigned at random to each panelist, and samples were allowed to rest briefly before evaluation so that the aroma of the creaminess and the vanilla flavor was allowed to increase. Then samples were tested for all attributes on a 15 centimeter line scale and replicated. These measurements were then gathered together, and then ANOVA analysis was performed. And here comes the results of our experiment. The sample means of the data is as follows. There is significant differences between panelists in their description of color, vanilla aroma, and density, although the rate of melting and creaminess was fairly consistent. The ice creams had differences in all 5 categories at the 0.1 probability significance scale. There were significant differences in color between Tillamook and Breyers Natural, while Breyers Lactose Free, Winco Vanilla Bean, and Dreyer's No Sugar Added remained in the middle of these. For vanilla aroma, there were significant differences again between samples, with the minimum being at Dreyer's No Sugar Added, the maximum at Tillamook, and then values in between for Breyers Natural, Breyers Lactose Free, and Winco Vanilla Bean. There were also significant differences in density, which the minimum was at 4.2 for Winco Vanilla Bean, and the maximum average density rating was at 7.720 for Tillamook. The rate of melting, also significant. The maximum was at 7.880 for Tillamook, and the minimum was at 3.610 for Dreyer's No Sugar Added. Creaminess, maximum at Breyers Natural, 7.08, the maximum was at Breyers Lactose Free at 7.580, and the minimum was at Dreyer's No Sugar Added, 4.540. And next we will interpret After examining our data, it is clear that we have significant differences between the panelists in perceptions of aroma, color, and density. These significant differences are only at the 0.1 level of significance, however, and this is most likely due to our low population size. To increase the significance, we would need to get more panelists or possibly more replications. Also, more training is necessary to achieve consistent results between panelists. This would limit our significant differences between panelists in their perception of each attribute. And this is a plot of the significantly different ice cream attributes for each sample, which Tillamook vanilla ice cream seems to have the largest mean rating for each of the attributes. It is at the 497, which is the blue on the exterior. On the interior, we have 140 and 316, which is the Winco and the Breyer slow churn. These are both of our no sugar or sugar substitutes with the lactose free and the slow churned, which may have contributed to their differences. Here's the Pearson correlation matrix for our data. Those that are highlighted in blue are the most strongly correlated. I chose to highlight the ones that were over 7, as this is closest to 1. So as you can see, vanilla aroma is very closely related to density, rate of melting, and creaminess. In addition, rate of melting is related to density fairly closely. For the observations, we have our F1 is most closely represented by the vanilla aroma and the rate of melting, then followed by density and at the lowest color. F2 is most closely related to creaminess attribute. And coming up, I will discuss the results that were described in the previous slides. This is just a summary of the different ingredients that were present in each of the samples. As you can see, Breyer's Natural Vanilla has very low amount of sugar substitutes and other so-called artificial ingredients, while Dreyer's Slow Churned, Breyer's Lactose Free, and Winco seem to be loaded with many different thickeners, stabilizers, emulsifiers, and also sugar substitutes. This is just various nutritional information. The density I calculated on a gram per milliliter basis by converting the serving size, which was the grams listed here, and then per half cup. So I converted the half cup into milliliters and then created the density. For the vanilla aroma, each sample was expected to increase as total fat content of each sample increased. However, based on ANOVA results, perception of vanilla, Tillamook vanilla bean, and Dreyer slow churn, no sugar added vanilla bean had highest and lowest fat content respectively. This corresponds with our prediction. However, Breyer's lactose free vanilla and Winco vanilla bean ice cream show the opposite of this expected trend. There was a study by Guinard and others in 1997 that indicated samples with highest perception of vanilla aroma also contained highest sugar content. This could have been represented in our data by the use of different flavorings may have caused significant differences that could have swayed this trend. Tillamook vanilla bean uses vanilla extract, whole vanilla bean to provide flavor to the product. Dreyer slow churn, no sugar added vanilla bean uses only vanilla bean. They also differ in their use of sugar substitutes, which could have changed the differences between each variety. In our experiment, the rate of melting was also another attribute that was observed. To begin, we expected as total fat decreased, we expected the rate of melting to increase. Guinard and others in 1997 and Frost and others in 2009 explained how there is a negative relationship between melting of ice cream and fat content. This was also shown in our data, as the highest amount of fat per serving were in Tillamook Vanilla Bean, Breyers Natural Vanilla, and Winco Vanilla Bean ice cream. These samples also required the longest time to completely melt in the mouth. For the color, darkness in the color of the samples, we predicted that to positively correlate with the content of vanilla extract, natural flavoring, dyes, and other ingredients that could be present in the ice cream. However, when we looked at our data, color showed the least positively correlated relationship with vanilla aroma. There were, however, studies by Rowland and others in 1999 that evaluated fat content and its effect on sensory attributes. They found that increasing fat content led to an increase in whiteness in ice cream. Thus, if we had one of our ice creams had a higher fat content per serving, we could expect a more white or bleached look to the ice cream. This was not exactly shown in our data. However, this could be due to other variables. We assume that the addition of egg yolks darkened Tillamook Vanilla Bean ice cream, and this is why that had the much higher mean rating for color. And similar results could be expected in the other samples. The intensity of creaminess as a texture attribute, we predicted this to increase with fat content due to the fact that cream is the fat. Our results found no such correlation. However, Varela and others conducted a study on hydrocolloids, or the ingredients used to bind ice cream, had a significant effect on attributes, and they observed that all the samples had significance and their creaminess varied with varying amounts of hydrocolloids. To further explain the differences in creaminess, future studies must be done to reflect differences. In addition, we also observed the different densities that were perceived when evaluating our ice cream samples. The perceived density closely matched the calculated density that I created in the nutritional section. In this table below, you can see that those with higher perceived density averages also had higher calculated density, the lowest being down here at 4.21 for Winco Vanilla Bean, which also had a 0.55 grams per milliliter calculated density. This is our lowest, and the highest is at 7.88 perceived density, which was our Tillamook Vanilla Bean, which also had the highest calculated at 0.6 roughly grams per milliliter. To conclude, we had significant differences in our perception of attributes between each sample. These were, however, only at the 0.1 significance level. In order to increase the significance or power of our study, more training and replications are necessary. We did, however, observe multiple trends. For example, as fat content increased, melt rate decreased and density increased. Also, an increase in fat content was proportionate to an increase in vanilla aroma. This indicates that fat has a strong effect on both the texture and the flavor profile of ice cream. In addition, different emulsifiers and gums meant to bind ice cream do not have so much of an effect on sensorial perception. This is indicated by the different uses of binding ingredients in the ingredient list and how they have little effect on the data. In addition, decreased sugar content resulted in lower perception of vanilla aroma. This indicates that this was not indicated in the evaluation of the lactose-free variety. The lactose-free variety acted as kind of an outlier because lactose was removed and more sugar had to be added to compensate. While even though there was more sugar, the vanilla aroma was not increased too. So that is the results of our experiment. Thank you for listening. and here are our references.